Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll come to order the meeting. It is 5:39. Mr. Montoya? Mr. So?
I'm present, thank you.
President Haskey? Ms. Aspas? I'm present, that's 3, so we have a quorum.
Sorry, she said here. I'm gonna put it back. You were asked for Vice President at this meeting.
I heard her say here.
Are you?
Do we have a volunteer from members of the congregation here today to offer a prayer?
How about the pledge first?
How about that? Mr. Montoya will offer the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a volunteer to offer a prayer? Mr. Superintendent, would you do that for us?
I could do that. Will everyone please bow their heads for a quick prayer? Heavenly Father, we come before you again this evening, very humbly asking you to guide all that we do in this meeting, to help it be for the children of Central Consolidated School District. We ask that you be with the employees of the district as they move forward in this coming school year, especially during these times that were very difficult the last few weeks and months as we continue to mourn the loss of another faculty member this past week. We ask that you calm the minds and hearts of those folks who worked with Chastity Wooten, and we ask you that we can just move forward and all of us collectively just again do the best we can for the children of this district. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. I'll put the phone by my mouth when I talk.
We have a few minutes for an agenda review.
Can I make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
It's been moved and approved it's been moved and seconded, excuse me, to approve the agenda.
We've also requested to take action on the consent agenda right away. Thank you.
Could you repeat that, Mr. Sol?
Yeah, it's a motion to approve the agenda with, this is part of the agenda, but it's also request to take action to approve the items listed on the consent agenda. Thank you.
So, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat for everybody that he, motioned to approve the agenda, but also made a request that I imagine would be secondary to the actual approval, correct? Mr. Montoya?
That are
It
second-
wasn't really part of his, motion. It was separate from the motion, but just a request to take action on consent agenda items.
Oh, so he wants to basically technically amend,
No.
to amend the agenda to approve the consent agenda first. That's what I understand what we just said, if you're correct.
Is that correct, Mr. So?
Yes, if we can move that up.
Okay, so we do have one motion on the table, and that motion is just to approve the agenda before that extra comment, right? And that's what was seconded by Mr. Montoya. And so that's what the vote is currently regarding. You want to do that vote, and then can we have a discussion?
Well,
on
you're
the
gonna
request?
approve the agenda. If you approve it, you can't amend it unless he sends his motion to approve.
The motion is made and seconded.
Waiting for a second,
Second's already made.
the agenda.
What did she say?
Board President Haskell, could you repeat that?
Like I said, I will second the motion to approve the agenda.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Mr. Montoya,
Yes.
Mr. Sol,
Yes,
Ms. Haskey,
Yes,
And Vice President Aspis?
and myself, I vote yes. Item number 2, comments from the audience. Do we have any comments from the audience, Sharon?
Mr. Wells, before we give you comments. Before we give the comments, I want to make sure that we loop in Vice President Aspis. So there was a vote to approve the agenda, and it was and it was motioned and seconded, motioned by Mr. So and seconded by President Haskey, and the vote was taken. Do you vote to approve the agenda? Vice President Aspis?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So now we're moving on to comments from the audience. Mr. Wells asked if there are comments. I do have a comment from the audience.
Secretary Wells, before, comments are taken from the audience, can the statement be read? I came on late, so I just want to make sure that the statement before public comments is read. Thank you.
She wanted to hear a statement. What?
So it's a statement that's on the comment form? It's on the yellow comment form?
She wants this read? In order to recognize staff or community members from the audience who wish to speak to the board, we ask that you fill out this card and present it to the board president prior to the start of the meeting. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Select one person to speak from a group. The board requests your cooperation in resolving issues or concerns by asking you to follow the chain of command and consult with the appropriate school district personnel prior to discussing the issue with the board. Doing so will usually result in a more timely solution. Public comments and observations regarding non-agenda items that fall within the responsibilities of the board may be heard at this time. Although board members may provide a short response, the board is not able to discuss matters not listed on the agenda. Comments regarding matters under litigation will not be allowed. We are interested in your comments and concerns. Thank you.
And Sharon, there's just the one comment? All right, I'll go ahead and read the comment. If any board member objects to any of it, you can stop me if you feel like it violates any of that. It's pretty general, not super positive, but general. A comment is as follows. Dear board members, I'm writing to express my deep dismay at the ongoing loss of quality educators and staff within our school district. It is troubling and disappointing that this critical issue does not appear to be the board's most pressing concern. The constant turnover of our district's talented professionals significantly contributes to the inequalities our students face compared to other districts. If we continually see our crew jumping ship, perhaps it's time to consider what is being done or not done on a board level to perpetuate this. Once again, we have recently lost some of our district's most trusted, experienced, and dedicated people to surrounding districts and other communities. I urge the board to reflect on this and prioritize the retention of our district's most valuable asset, its people. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Sheldon Pickering, Kirtland, New Mexico.
Are there any comments from the board?
I have none.
Mr. Stoll?
I don't have any comments, thank you.
Yes, Vice President Aspis, you have a comment?
Yes, a response to that. I know we don't need to or have to, but Mr. Pickering, as a former school board member, should know better. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Ms. Haskey?
I don't have any comments, thank you.
Thank you. I have none either. We'll move on to board and superintendent report. Are there any reports from board members?
I have none.
Ms. Haskey?
I don't have anything to report at this time. I don't have anything to report, thank you.
I don't have anything to report either, thank you.
Ms. Aspis?
Vice President Aspis, do you have anything to report for the board reports?
Then we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Check one more time. Ms. Aspis, do you have something to report?
Yes, I do.
Oh, she did, okay. I guess I missed one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can people hear me? If not, then there's no use in it.
Can you all hear her? Can I have a round of applause if you can hear? So yes, they can hear you.
Well, first of all, I apologize. I should be there, and I know it's very hard to do meetings like this, but I just wanted to report about, I've heard some good reports this year, and and I was really expecting the negative, but I've heard good reports about. There's been some positive changes, and I was surprised by that because of the of the changes that Superintendent Carlson has made, and not the board, but the Carlson has made, and so I'm just really glad to hear those comments, and I'm hoping for a really good year, and I know we're still in a financial crisis, but I'm just hoping everybody bears along and with us, and I appreciate the ones that have stayed, and some have no choice, but the ones that do, thank you for staying and providing what you can for our students, because it's not their fault. And I just wanted to say that there's some good comments out there, and I'm really glad about that. And then today I participated in an IEA meeting, and they wanted to get some thoughts and some ideas at the federal level on how to better provide grants and the help from Washington, and there were some people there across the nation, and there was a group of like 225, I think, last saw, but across the nation, most of it tribal public education departments, and others are urban. I guess that was the definition I heard was urban districts, but most they have the same issues and in different ways, but I just wanted to report that the people from President Haskell and from Doty, from Department of Ed and the Navajo Nation, they spoke and offered some suggestions and some ideas, and so I think it's really good that we have that advocacy in those areas, because and as I've heard all the discussions from other places, it's not all well, and I just appreciate it. A lot of them, some of them really had to be bold enough to come out and say and talk about some of the discrepancies they face. So thank you. Thank you, Carlson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Atkins.
Go ahead, Superintendent.
Are we on to the superintendent's report? I'm not exactly sure how brief I want to make this. This is actually one of those things where I have, I do know that we need to get through the agenda and everything, but I wanted to report on something a little bit different, just as a change of pace. Last week was the San Juan County Fair, and I know we have somebody who I recognize from being at the fair here. We have Vicki Lake, the Shiprock agriculture teacher, and also I saw there was Zane Webster, the Kirtland agriculture teacher. I don't know, was the Newcomb agriculture teacher there as well? No, okay. And so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna just give you kind of let you know what my report is gonna be this Friday when I do a video report, rather than go through all the winners. Because the Shiprock FFA had a couple folks on there, I'm gonna read their names, and then the Kirtland had quite a few, but the accomplishments of each of them was so many. And just so you know, I did have the opportunity to go to the fair. If you all have an opportunity to go there, everybody should go to the fair when you have the opportunity, because it's quite the show, and it's amazing the work that our kids do. I mean, as I'm walking through As I'm just getting there, the kids are cleaning their animals and doing everything they can to just get ready. It's a lot of work, and those kids are just, every one of them is a great kid. So go to the fair next year is my message. Sorry, it's getting kind of warm in here, so I'll do it pretty quick. I don't know if there's an issue with the heating. Sir, you got anybody? Is the heat not turned up quite enough? Okay, thank you, sir, for that. So we had, from the Shiprock FFA chapter, we had two young people, Sakari Frazier and Kanan Bitsui. Cannon, I apologize for that, who had quite a few accomplishments. Again, I'm just going to go through the names. And from the Kirtland FFA, who had 23 animals qualified for sale, bringing in over $130,000 with additional donations coming in. We had Dylan Carlisle, Fallon Carlston, Katana Hunt, Raymond Hunt, Kayla McKinley, Sydney Triplett, Porter Silva, Bryce Sanders, Caleb Thompson, Zachary Stock, Zeidel Manuelito, Kylie Thompson, Heath Finch, Paisley Foster, Holt James, Blaine James, Danley Triplett, and Cassidy Garcia. I mean, they have everything ranging from grand champions all the way down to first place, second place, third place, and many different categories. Some of these young people had goats and hogs and lambs and chickens and rabbits and everything. Some had several of each varieties of each kind of animal. So kudos to those young people for all the work that they do, and kudos to our agricultural teachers, our FFA sponsors. And that's all I have. Big round of applause. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have for today. I could do that as well. I had the opportunity to attend a Canalda a couple weeks ago. And that's an experience that I think everybody in this room would benefit from, just to see the reverence that folks place on this kind of a ceremony and the amount of people it takes to prepare and what it does to the young people. It's a 4-day event. And again, I thank the folks, the Aspis folks who invited me to attend and to check it out. And I learned a lot from the experience. So thank you for that, Vice President Aspis. And that's all I have.
Moving on to reports. A, unique trip request, Newcomb Middle School, Newcomb High School, Shiprock High School, TBA, KCHS, Kirtland Middle School, Unity Council. I don't see a name here that's Joseph Chi and Arlene Nez Finley.
Good evening. Yate Gade Nakano Yagi. Kagi Altasoria Ka Chinet Adeskinigi Aya Bahashneto Leto Hagodes Kiki do the Queenie Lado Hanshini La Bahado Lefigi. So Nikinan Ani Naflinigi Yate. So good evening, board members, and those who are watching online as well too, and those who are present here. My name is Donovan Russell, and I serve as the Equity Council Supervisor under the Department of Intercultural Community Outreach. I've been with the district, we're going on my 3rd year now, and so just recently we combined 2 programs together to make one, which is the Unity, stands for United Tribal Indian Tribal Youth, and then the Equity Council. So both have very similar curriculums and pillar backgrounds, foundations. And so this year we have 7 schools that established these programs in their school, and it's more for the secondary schools. So we have Newcomb Middle School, Newcomb High School, and then TBA, and as well as Shiprock High School and Career Prep. And here in Kirtland, we have one at Kirtland Middle School and the high school. And so looking at the first one here on the agenda, is that the NIEA or? Okay, so it's the NIEA. This trip is to Palm Springs, California, and we will be taking 16 students, so 8 girls and 8 boys. And we want to mainly concentrate on the high school students for this trip. As I mentioned earlier, the middle schools. And the reason why we made this decision was because it's a long trip. It's going to be about a 4-night stay. And so it'd be a little bit too much for the younger students to travel with the older kids. And so, so NIEA stands for the National Indian Education Association, and that's going to be taking place from October 9th through the 12th. And because it's quite a ways to get there, we extended the trip a day before and a day after. And so the dates for this is going to be October 8th through the 13th. They'll be leaving here on the 8th, staying in Albuquerque and taking an early flight to California the next day. And then they'll be coming back the following day after the conference. And so students will attend this tribal youth conference for cultural experience as needed as support in language acquisition, cultural identity, and leadership. And so the total trip for this was going to be $56,437 or $434, and it averages out for each person going $2,821.70. And here's the itinerary, and we had to make some a little bit of adjustments last minute because when we had initially seeked the quotes and all that for this trip, I was doing my best to be proactive about it and planned on this 2 months before, but the approval process and paperwork pushed us to making our last minute travel arrangements. And so at that point, a lot of these hotels had filled up, and at the same time, we just found out that the Balloon Festival is happening in Albuquerque on that same time as they go out there too. And so so we made the adjustments and updated all that from the original itinerary. And do I go through the itinerary? Yeah. And then if we go to the next trip, that would be Sparks of Possibility. And this one's a little bit more of a local trip, and we've been like really trying to find things that are much closer for the students to go to, and as well as bring in some of our own consultants to our district as well too. But Sparks of Possibility is going to be in September of September 23rd through the 26th. Our students will be traveling by bus from here down to Phoenix, Arizona. And this one here, we included the junior high students. So you'll see a little bit more students on this one going. So 28 students, 14 girls, 14 boys, 4 chaperones. And we put it to where each chaperone will be overseeing 7 students each. And so for this trip, it'd be $31,251, and averaging cost per person is $947. And Sparks of Possibility is also a student tribal conference for cultural experience as needed to support language acquisition and cultural identity and leadership. And so these are the two trips that we're requesting the board for approval. And at this time, I stand for questions. Or
Yat a shikeda shidena ko naiso tani do adet da isinol tsagi shaya bit anin shlido tana sani pashish chin kitlichini da shichida shin da shanala. Good evening, board members, Secretary Wells, and Vice President Aspis and President Haskey, and then board members So and Montoya, and then Superintendents Mr. Deswood and Mr. Carlson. I just wanted to add that since both organizations' strong emphasis is on student leadership and advocacy, we have been trying to build and strengthen that within our Equity Council, but we have also found that the Unity chapter and organization that we established at all 7 secondary schools will also continue that at the school level. And so each of the secondary schools have established those chapters, but these trips do allow for that experience, but mostly to ensure that these students who acquire skills in advocacy and leadership bring them back, and that's where they will be utilizing and implementing that within their chapter and organizations when they follow the curriculum that is established for both organizations. And although it does say tribal for both of them, we have opened this up to other non-tribal members, and in the past 2 years they have been part of these trips. So it's not just for our Native American students. It is we're trying to make this diverse too, and the organizations do welcome them as well. So I just wanted to add that part. Yeah, thank you. We stand for questions.
Are there any questions from the board?
Question.
Go ahead.
Superintendent, this is just under the consideration of where we are financially. The question is, how are both of these trips going to be funded, and are we in a position to be able to do that?
Great question. I'm going to go ahead and let them answer that. But on the forms, it does say that it is paid for with grant money. So it doesn't involve any of the operational funding, which is questionable. And I'm glad you brought that up so the public could kind of hear that. I understand your reasoning behind that, so that folks realize that we're not just out there we're saying we have this financial crisis and spending operational dollars willy-nilly, that it's funded through other means. So go ahead.
So if I may, this grant that we have is from Indian Ed Ped. And so this grant is really focusing on strengthening the Equity Council. And this year's grant, we've added the strengthening of the student leadership and advocacy through different facets. One is for them to experience and gain guidance and skills and knowledge from attending these student leadership conferences. So we wrote those into the grants, and that's how they are being funded.
Okay, I appreciate that, because when we do go to these conferences, whether it's at the state level or nationally, I'm not against or adverse to the students going. But again, just as superintendent has stated, it's important that the general public knows exactly where that funding is coming from, and we're not dipping into the operational funding to do this. And certainly appreciate the fact that the state has set aside that money to be able to do that. But I do have a request that if at least one individual from from each conference come and present to the board on what they've learned, please.
Yes, we can certainly do that, and we have done that before, so we'll continue doing that.
Any other comments from the board?
I don't have any comments, thank you.
I don't have any comments, just to express my thanks and appreciation for it, and just hope the students learn a lot from this trip. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, Vice President Aspis?
Ms. Aspis? Okay, we'll move on then to B, fundraising request by Amy John.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, just to throw this in there, we have our family and community engagement meetings, known as the stakeholder meetings that we had last year. We've set the dates for this for the fall season 1. It'd be September 18 and 19 and October 2nd. It'll be at all 3 locations, same time, 5 to 8. And if you guys aren't doing anything on September 16th, we're gonna have a concert here in celebration of Mexican Independence Day. But during the day, we'll be at Newcomb and also in Shiprock as well too, and then with the administration as well too. So if you guys don't have anything going on September 16th, please join us. That's all. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Carlson, Secretary Wells, and Board Member Mr. Montoya, and the people that are online, Vice President Aspis and President Haskey. My name is Amy John from Civitai Middle School. I'm an 8th grade science teacher, and I'm currently trying to fundraise for my for 2 things. First is for the science club. One of the things that I guess with the budget cuts, we actually are asked to try and help fundraise for our students. So I'm asking if we could actually fundraise to the community with them selling items like candy to help them with their chips. With Science Club, it comprises of different organizations that they compete in. One of them is the Lego League for robotics, and we currently added on the Tech Challenge as well. And that was going to happen, currently is happening right now, so the students are actually getting ready for that. Then we also have Science Olympiad that happens a little bit later, and then Science Fair. So, and that's the reason why we're trying to fundraise. And the second group that we're doing is the 8th grade students. What we do with them is that part of their career and college, we usually try to take the kids on to different university and colleges for them to visit. And we also have to fundraise for this, so we also do the promotions as well for the 8th grade at Shiprock High. We actually ask parents to kind of help out with that though, but we're mostly looking at the bus and meals for the kids. And we're asking if we can also help the students fundraise to help with that as well. And that's just about what we're doing here. Are there any questions?
Comment.
Go ahead.
Superintendent, do we have a grant writer?
We have many grant writers. Some of them are in the room, but do we have specifically a grant writer paid just to write grants? We do not.
Okay, but we do have people that are qualified and capable of doing that.
We do.
What is keeping us from scouring the internet to find STEM grants for our students that would help with the particular cause that she's trying to do? Because I know there's a lot of money out there that's floating around that people are willing to give to students and causes, just as what Ms. Johns is asking. So I'm just saying that as a consideration.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item C, fundraising request by Ariana Sutter. Did I pronounce that right?
Let's see. Sue? Do we have somebody online, Jared? Sure. Go ahead. She's gonna call. Oh.
I think we can move forward if they're not here.
Is it okay to come back?
Do it.
I mean, the items are in the packet.
Mr. Wells, if she's more than capable, I respectfully ask that she.
Go ahead, if you're representing, go ahead.
I will kind of go through it. My name is Vicky Lake. I'm with Shiprock High School, and Ariana Suter is the soccer coach for the girls soccer team at Shiprock High School. I believe the name of this activity is a local business signs. So the students and coaches will approach local businesses to put up signs around the football field during games. These businesses may already have banners that they want to put up, or they could have banners that would be made probably by the students or made, and then they'll give them a list of information that they would want listed on their sign for their business, and then they would, I'm just reading it, sorry, basically be renting a space on the fence to give their business some exposure during home games. That's what I'm assuming.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Just a comment. I appreciate you stepping up, Ms. Lake, and just ask in the future that we make sure that we have the people that are asking and making the requests to please be present. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lake.
You're welcome.
To item D, request for approval of a gift donation. Kirtland Central High School Athletic Girls Basketball from Wally D Sports Foundation by Devin Manning.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Carlson, members of the board. I'm just asking if we can receive a $1,000 donation from the Wally D Sports Foundation. If you're not familiar with Wally D Sports Foundation, it's run by Walter Dorman. he's been a long time referee in this area, and he started a foundation the last few years that have given out scholarships to local athletes, particularly seniors. Throughout the last 2 years, he's had a big sports banquet for them. But me and him were talking, and he's willing to give $1,000 donation to the Curtin Central program.
Any questions for Mr. Manning? Comments? Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item E, request for approval of gift donation, Shiprock High School FFA chapter from New Mexico State Fair. Ms. Lake.
Good evening, I'm back again. This one I know about, so I can explain this one a little better. At New Mexico State Fair, there are about 18 FFA booth spots that you can set up, and we set one up every year. We've come very close to winning, but this last year, honestly, I'm not sure why this check was sent so late, but we did it in September of 2023 at the New Mexico State Fair FFA booth, and we won first place. So our prize winning for winning first place from New Mexico State Fair was $200. The check was just sent to us in July, I believe, June. And I did not receive it until probably July 18th when I got back, or Finesia got back, and it was in the mailbox. So we put in the thing, it's $200, and it's for our winnings of winning first place at the New Mexico State Fair. It's my first time winning first in like 20 years. So
Congratulations.
thank you. And our booth was, we did it on Let's Stock. It's called Stock because of corn stalk, but it was about Let's Stock about corn. And we did the modern uses of corn, and then we did the Native American uses of corn and showed the two different. So we integrated culture and FFA. And we always get, if they ever paid us for favorite, we would win every year because we put Pendleton blankets up all the time and jewelry. But it's locked, don't worry. I don't put fake jewelry. So, but this year we won, so.
And
That's
good,
it.
And good for you.
Thank you. Any questions? Sorry.
Just a comment.
Go ahead.
Again, this is indicative of the hard work and effort and the passion that you put into it with your kids, and then they feed off that. So congratulations. Keep up the good work, Ms. Lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item F, status of bus stop light by Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Secretary Wells, Board President Haskey, members of the board. So this report hopefully was going to go in conjunction with something from Ms. Lowe, who owns the property of the bus light in question. But what I'll do is I'll just give a very brief update of where we are, and it's not necessarily a super positive report, but I'll throw in a little bit of an addendum at the end that hopefully would be a little bit of a positive light on the subject. So I had some conversations with Mr. Begay since this was brought up on Thursday evening. I've had 4 conversations with him now. And so the first conversation is that the original plan had fallen through. So that's not really good news. So what we did is we hooked him up on Friday. One of our folks in the operations department was able to help him with a company. That person is unavailable this week due to a health complication that I can't really get into. But Mr. Begay, I talked to him about that today, and he has reached out to this company, and we'll have a quote. So while that's happening, if that does take some time, and he does have money set aside, and I let him know that we would provide labor for that, to help when the time comes. This should be a product that is available much quicker than the one that was coming from France. So we're hoping maybe a month or two at the most. If it gets to the point where it's going to be dark in the morning, we'll get together with Miss Lowe, and she's agreed that we can just affix, not necessarily, there's no construction involved, a temporary solar light on her property to alleviate the concerns, at least in the interim. So that's where we are, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Is there any comments from the board?
Thank you for shining some light on that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Literally?
Is there a brum bum out there somewhere?
Mr. So, good to see you. Good to see you too.
Item G, recommendation and administering of medications in school by Mr. Carlson.
Okay, so this one here, I think there's going to be more questions, and I'm not going to, as Mr. Sowell likes to point out, it's in the packet. All right, so there's a couple board policies in there. Actually, there's 3. The original 2 of them that you had were updated. So I just want everybody to know. So what this question is about, so let me just kind of give a background. In our school systems, our students are allowed to take medications that they're prescribed by physicians, by their family doctors. But there are parameters as to how those medications can be taken. And also, we don't recommend medications at the school district level. And so that's the first thing, is that the first policy that's in there is actually on the SAT process. And the reason that's in there is because this is how it works. If there's a student, and I think the question had a lot to do with ADHD medications, that kind of... Ritalin specifically. And so if we have a student, generally, but not always, a young man, a boy, could be a girl, who's exhibiting behavior concerns and has difficulty with behavior in the classroom, we go through the SAT process in the exact same way that we would as if they're having educational issues. And so we involve the folks in the SAT process. We have meetings, we take data. If need be, there's a functional behavior assessment made that could lead to a behavior intervention plan. It's possible the child could be referred for special ed services, but that's all outlined in the SAT process. And I think the biggest question to be answered is that something that we recommend in the school buildings? And the answer is never. That's not, teachers are not medical doctors, they're not physicians. If there is a child with any kind of behavioral disorder, we do the best we can to service that child at their level. If that child goes to a doctor with their family and there's a prescription for something such as Ritalin, that can be and should be administered in the school nurse's office. And the way that medication is administered is also is regulated by policy. And if you notice the policy, I don't even know if Sharon's putting some of the policy up. The original policy that I had on there didn't include, there's a word there that I didn't really want to talk about because that's not what this is about. But they updated the policy to include a certain medication. That's medical cannabis, which is, if you look throughout the policy, it's mentioned several times. Yeah, and so we don't necessarily need to go into that. And that's actually something that I don't believe we would do anyway in this district based on where we are. That's written for the state of New Mexico. And again, we don't necessarily need to get into that unless you have questions, which I probably can't answer. So anyway, that's how we recommend medication, or don't necessarily recommend medication, and that's how we regulate it and administer it in the schools. Questions, board members? Mr. Montoya.
You see, I'm chomping at the bit over here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so obviously I'm the one that asked for that. And it's really predicated around the use of Ritalin. And my concern really is from a litigious standpoint of a parent coming and saying, well, the teacher said my kid needs to be put on Redland. None of the people in those classrooms, and it says in here, the SAT is made up of classroom teachers and building principals designated the students, parents, and other individuals with the expertise to provide recommendations. In respects to that medication, with all due respect, I don't think we have any of our teachers that are qualified or expert to be able to make those kind of determinations, or even use that word of suggest that your child should take. So I hope you see where I'm coming from in respects to protecting the district's interest and ensuring that everybody understands and knows that is something that they do not do, period. We got to leave it up to the true people who understand these and have the true expertise in making those qualified decisions for these kids. Because I've said this before publicly. As we all know, generally speaking, little boys, I was one of them who had that problem. I still do, even as an adult. And God help you if you have a little boy that's creative, it's even more suppressing to that child and more damaging, and the harm that it does in the long run, everlasting effects on that child. So we need to be very careful and mindful what we're doing and even remotely suggesting, again, with a clear view and eye of a professional who understands those things. So that's really where I'm coming from, but I appreciate the fact that you had them put up all that information for the general public to see if they need to. Thank you.
You're welcome, and I appreciate you bringing that up too, because that's something that has evolved over the last probably 30, 40 years. When you and I, and I believe we're roughly the same age, if not exactly the same age, don't anybody guess? Pretty darn close. We're in school. That probably was common practice for a teacher to say, I think, Steve or Gary needs to be maybe taking a little something because they can't sit still.
Little Gary used to get his ass beat.
Well, and then I wasn't going to mention that. That's another thing that's changed a little bit in schools. So no more recommendations and no more physical violence for the students. So we'll make sure that message do. I appreciate that. And I think that's something that all teachers probably need to hear from their building administration. Let's not go out of bounds. Let's stay within our lane. We do our best to handle those behaviors. And if something else comes up and the physician recommends something and the child comes in and has a medication, that's their lane, not ours. So
again, to Mr. So's point, it's clear cut. It's in the packet for people to read if they have questions. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Welcome, President
I have
Haskell.
a comment.
Go ahead.
Are you asking? This is Christina. I have a comment.
Yes, Miss Christina, go ahead.
Okay. I don't have that same packet, so I'll ask this question. The administering medicines, when it came up before, I remember was questioned about how prescriptions and that need administered, and you're saying it's by, and one case where I don't know, do we have a fully staffed, full-time stay in City or Yukon? Because question from a parent is, do you have to take off, to go out there and administer medicine and then come back? And places that's not possible. And so I'm wondering, by recapping or rereading this, to keep those things in mind and make sure that our parents are not we do that. Have those issues.
Ms. Aspis?
Move forward.
Vice President Aspis, you cut out. What letter are we on?
G.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can we move on?
How much did I cut out?
Do you know what was her last comment? I'm not certain.
Can you?
You're distorted. I can hear you, but it's distorted. You're still coming not very clear.
Can we proceed, please?
Okay.
Let me call Steve.
Okay. All right. We'll continue. Thank you. Letter H, Memorandum of Understanding between New Mexico Highlands University and CCSD 2023 through 2028 Professional Development School District Partnership with by Steve Carlson.
So the person who's going to present this is online, and his name is Doug Eric, spelled E-A-R-I-C-K, and he's from New Mexico Highlands, and he's going to go ahead and give the presentation, and I can answer any questions from the district level, as could actually quite several people in the room, and including Mr. Montoya, since he has heard the presentation as well.
Greetings, Superintendent Carlson and School Board. I'm in Las Vegas currently, so I appreciate being able to join you guys remotely like this. It does make for a shorter trip than we had. I did visit along with the Dean of the School of Education last week with Superintendent Carlson's administrative team and as well as Board Member Montoya. Just a quick kind of background. What we're doing currently at Highlands is trying to develop partnerships with various school districts. We'll just say in the northern part of the state. I think in the end, we'll hopefully have partnerships with school districts that stretch all the way from Tucumcari to the east to like Penasco or Taos to the north, and as far west as Central Consolidated Schools. The idea behind our partnership is to develop a network of collaborators with these school districts. We met last week and discussed some of the benefits, I'll say, of being a school district partner. And the MOU outlines in more detail, I think, what those components are. But basically, the idea is for us to establish collaborative relationships with our school district partners so that services that we're offering will be offered first to these partners. These include mini summits and summits, which are geared around professional development for teachers and administrators and school representatives, along with potential for working on grants that we're writing. Currently, the School of Education has probably up to about $34 million that we've raised in the way of grants and endowment from the state. And we'd like to start sharing these resources with our partnership school districts. So that's basically what the MOU outlines. I'll say a couple of things. First of all, I view this as more of a good faith MOU. There is no monetary requirements from school districts to be part of our network. But I will say that we will invest heavily in our school district partners in the way of offering all of the services that are outlined in here for free. We also look at the opportunity for having some of our faculty work in the school district, and maybe around research projects of interest to them, but more importantly, research projects that may be important to the school district and can help guide a lot of, I would say, a lot of the work that we would like to see done in a true collaborative fashion. Maybe I'll just leave it there and then see if anybody has any questions for me.
Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
Comment.
Go ahead.
The program that's being provided, certainly set up as the MOU, the benefits are absolutely positive. There's some programs and grant funding that they have that are going to be extremely beneficial to the school district as a whole and moving forward. And what was presented by Mr. and Mrs. Eric were just, again, the potential for the district in and of itself is just huge. As one example is for the bilingual program, and before I continue with that one, is there's some of these programs that are absolutely in line with Yazi Martinez and servicing our kids. And so this bilingual program, if they receive that grant funding, which I believe we are told that they'll find out in September, would work really well with Eva B. Stokely and the programs that they have there and servicing the students with quality educators as well. So I just wanted to say that, again, the benefit to the district is going to be huge. And to the point of the presentation that it's not costing the district a penny. They're the ones providing the funding. They have the endowment, they have the grant resources, and certainly a lot of connections to the state of New Mexico to be able to assist us with forwarding the education of our kids, all of our kids, for that matter. So thank you.
Are there any?
And I will say, can I add real quickly that
Yes.
I didn't mention Yazi Martinez finding, but that is it's a major driver, that and I think reaching out around bilingual education in our state is a real major driver for a lot of the funding we get, and also within the mission of what our Institute for Cultural and Linguistically Responsive Teaching and Learning is about, is trying to help get those resources out to the school so that they can best meet the needs of their students. It's not like we're coming in saying you need to do this. I think our approach really is, what do you need from us, and let's see what ways we can help support your missions through the actions and activities that we have going on at Highlands.
Okay. Yeah, mic grew up. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any questions?
No, we don't. Thank you.
Okay. Vice President Aspis?
Well, this will be.
Can you repeat that?
Turn off the sound on the on the Zoom. Google Meet.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I think, I don't know where it's still coming in from.
Try it again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Why is there?
Yes, twice.
Yes, twice.
Can you turn off? I think the speaker's on the Google Meet.
I think so.
You're muted there.
It somewhere it's coming in.
Can you turn the sound down on your Google Meet?
Yeah.
I can do that. Would be good.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That'll work.
Yes, better.
Okay. On this, I really like the fact that we can attract somebody like Highlands, but is it going to be still local control, or what careers or what studies are they going to pick? And that's my thought on this is the subjects, if any technical careers, is that going to be us picking as a board, or will they give us what they think we need? Highland.
So, Ms. Aspis, I'll go ahead and interject. This is really going to be tailored to the needs of the school district. What they're bringing and providing is the expertise to help guide. We will go to them. They don't come in and say it's not prescriptive. It's not you have to, you should. It's whatever the needs are, whatever we decide as a school district, whether it's a building or grade levels or community, they will help to shape and form the needs. And then it's really about a partnership with Highlands, which to me, I was really surprised and blown away with the fact that they're allowing the district to have that much input and really a very, very strong collaborative relationship with Highlands. They provide research, we provide the information, and then we use that to help form and shape again the direction of our needs. So it's all very, very positive.
I appreciate very kind words there, Mr. Montoya, and I agree 100%. The focus is always going to be around the schools, the students in those schools, the community. We have purposely tried to recruit faculty who has that perspective. We just recently hired 5 what we call social justice and equity research professors, and that really is their goal, is to listen to what the needs of the schools and the communities are and cater what research they can do. Now, obviously, what you can provide is maybe access to the schools, to the data that they'll need to do that research. But this has to be reflective of what your needs are as an individual school, as a school district. If we came in and saying, you need to do this, it doesn't work. We've seen that happen too many times with the universities. They're not true collaborations, not true partnerships. And we use this terminology, and we really believe in it, that this is a two-way street. We both have something to benefit from these collaborations, and we will do whatever we need to do to make sure that those collaborations work for you.
I have a question. So on the MOU, it says counseling, social work, and ed leadership. So is that your target areas in social work, in counseling, in administration?
That's one area. We got a grant from the PED this last year to start up a special program. We call it Norteños Leaders Rising. And basically this money has been decided by the PED to focus on ways in which we can increase the number of local teachers who would like to get their ed leadership license, or their school social work license, or the school counseling license. And what we do is we offer coursework for free. Basically, we pay the tuition on it for anyone that's in the program. And then we also recruit and place a co-teacher in the classroom of the leader that's rising, the participant in the program. So the idea behind this is that all the barriers that might exist for somebody to pursue that licensure on their own, we can take a lot of that off their plate. We provide stipends over the summer, so if they normally have to work during summer, they don't have to. The tuition is paid for by the grant, so that's one thing off the plate. And then the idea that they may need a release time to do internships, to get mentorship from local administrators, that kind of thing. We provide an opportunity for them to get out of the classroom by placing a co-teacher in the classroom. So that's just one program here, this grow your own idea. But we have other programs in the pipeline and current funding that supports it. So that's just one aspect. I wouldn't say it's our total focus. I think really what our focus is about is helping school districts meet their own needs and ways in which we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Aspis.
Do you want to do it on the online? Yeah, but it's echoing. Do you want to try to do it on the meet?
Is it still echoing?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. What about now?
You're good.
Okay. It's funny that all these things are being said and you know, why couldn't PED give us that money and those grants as a school district? And you know, where we had firsthand at with our ICO, our bilingual, and grow our own. And I just find this crazy, you know, that PED would go this avenue instead of, you know, putting a third party in there. That's the way I look at it. And don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but that's what it appears like. Again, we're given, we have the middleman in there, and to address our cultural and our needs of our students. Thank you.
Vice President Aspis, this has nothing to do with New Mexico PED. This is aside from that, I believe. If you could expand.
I will say that yes, this one grant we have received is from the PED, but I would imagine the reason why it came to Highlands was that this is really to help support coursework and the development of licensure for teachers who want to become principals, school counselors, school social workers. Those courses would have to be offered from a university anyway. And so I would imagine the thinking was from the PED, if this is a program that's going to be housed at the university, then funding should probably go there. It also allows us to work with all of our school partners and not just Central Consolidated. We have teachers from Cuba, Penasco, Wagon Mound, Pecos, all involved in this particular program. So I think it allows us to have a broader impact with all of our school partners, not just focused on one particular school constituent.
Thank you. Are there any
Sure.
other questions or comments?
Hi, I don't know if this is just open questions or comments. I just joined.
No, it's not. If you could mute
Okay.
yourself, thank you.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions or comments from the board, I appreciate the time. Thank you for the information.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Letter I, school board policy on section 1-6500. I can't even read. IJOA, field trips, and section J-405, JJE, student fundraising activities, and section K-085, KCD, public gifts, donations to school by Ms. Chappelle.
Sharon, did you get that email? Awesome.
Breach. I'm not on. Yes, I'll let her know. I don't know who does that. Sharon. Sharon, can you mute everybody except the speaker? Thank you.
Board members, after last Thursday's work session, I went back and created some red line. You'll see that in front of you. What I'll do is I'm just going to read through the new policy as revised, and then I'll go back through and give you an explanation on the changes. So I'll just read through the new as recommended revised student fundraising activities. That's J-4050. So it now reads fundraising activities by students on school premises or elsewhere when they are acting as representatives of the school they attend or the school district will be permitted only when connected with specific school activities that are approved in accordance with this policy. Definitions. Fundraising activity means any activity or event held by the school district, individual schools, or a school-sponsored organization, whether in person or online, that sells goods or services, seeks donations, or participates in other lawful fundraising activities in order to generate money for activities that benefit youth in educational, cultural, civic, social, and ethical development, and are school-sponsored activities, athletics, and clubs. The activity shall not be detrimental to regularly planned instruction. The proceeds of all fundraising activities shall be deposited in the Student Activity Fund, and funds from such activities shall be used only as specified in the Manual of Procedures from Public School Accounting and Budgeting. Monies raised by student groups shall be spent to benefit those students. If money is not spent by the group that raised it, the money will remain in the account where deposited and will be used for future student groups. B. In-school fundraising projects include fundraising activities held on school grounds and include events such as car washes and bake sales, either on or off school grounds, that are open to the general public. C. Out-of-school fundraisers are classified as those fundraising activities that involve students going door to door, target specific individuals and or businesses, are on the internet, or are not considered an in-school fundraising project. Procedures. Each sponsor shall submit in writing on forms approved by the superintendent the purpose of the fundraiser, the ways in which the fundraiser benefits students consistent with the above fundraising definition, information pertaining to the method and adult supervision of the fundraiser, and the time frame of the activity. Prior to any fundraising activity commencing, the staff member sponsoring the fundraising event must acknowledge in writing to the superintendent the date materials were provided, as well as a copy of the materials that were provided to parents and students, informing them of the purposes of the fundraiser, as well as any requirements for participation or consequences arising from non-participation. In-school fundraising projects will be scheduled and controlled by individual building administrators after filing the above documentation and obtaining approval of the superintendent or his designee. All out-of-school fundraisers must include the above documentation and be approved by the superintendent and the board prior to the beginning of the fundraising activity. With respect to out-of-school fundraisers, the superintendent or his designee will coordinate such requests to minimize the number of out-of-school fundraisers going on in a community at one time. The superintendent shall take this information into consideration in determining whether to approve the out-of-school fundraiser requirements. In addition to the above requirements, fundraisers in school and out of school will be governed by the following. 1, sponsors are responsible for complying with district accounting procedures and policies in conducting student fundraising activities. 2, neither student grades, transcript, nor diplomas will be affected as a result of participation or non-participation in fundraisers. 3, each school's administration must meet all financial requirements of all fundraising activities in which their respective school participates. 4, staff that participate in fundraising activities who fail to abide by the requirements in this policy may be subject to discipline up to and including termination. And that's it for this particular policy, and I will take questions on these revisions.
Are there any questions or comments in regards to these revisions?
Just a quick one here. Where is this information posted at for me to like be
Can
able
you
to
mute
look at it and read it?
Sharon, please mute. Board members, are there any comments or questions? Thank you.
I think my question was about out-of-school fundraisers. For me, I'm comfortable with having the superintendent handle that, and not have it come so much to the board.
Can you speak into the speaker, please?
Yeah, for myself, I mean, I'm actually much more interested. I'd like to see a policy that's more school friendly, or it doesn't have to go through so many steps. But so in that respect, I'm actually comfortable with even having the superintendent take care or approve out of school fundraisers, and that would be like I think it's on the one of the paragraphs that says out of school fundraisers must be approved by the superintendent and board prior to the beginning of the fundraising activity. So for me, I would recommend just probably delete and the board. That way it's more in the hands of the superintendent and school administration.
Are there any other comments?
I would agree fully with that.
Okay.
As do I.
Okay. Jermaine?
So the change that
Mr. So is requesting that on all out-of-school fundraiser must include the above documentation may be approved by the superintendent, and delete the board. Striking the and the board.
I made that change, and I will make sure that there's no other place where that is referenced.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
I have none.
Okay. Please continue.
I do just want to state that in response to the feedback from last time, I did beef up, as you can tell, the requirements of staff, and that's in direct response to issues we've had in the past, and just making sure that we're being super careful on the way we handle money in the district.
Thank you.
Oh, the other thing that I just want to point out real quick is that previously we had 2 fundraising policies with the same number designation, and just to make it easier and a little more efficient, I just merged them so there wouldn't be duplication. All right, so
and this document is a working document, is not in board docs, correct?
it is not current, with my revisions, it is not currently in board docs.
Okay.
But if you look at board docs, you will see 2 separate policies with the same number that say school fundraisers.
I see only student fundraising and donation to schools. Actually, there's 2 donation to schools and 2 to field trips, 1 to student
Yeah, but
fundraising.
it was not. underline the
But
structure.
I'm okay with that.
Right, so with the field trips, with the fundraisers, the student fundraisers, there were two with the same number. They both were designated as, sorry, let me just scroll up. J-4050, and just to ease on the confusion caused by having two policies with the same number, I just merged them, so you have one policy with all of the same information.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so moving on to field trips. In the past, this policy only was titled field trips. It does reference activity trips. So you'll note, oops, I'll wait. Sorry, Sharon, I went too fast. Oh, it's on the bottom. Just keep scrolling down to that same document. Sorry, I was trying to make it easier. Yeah. While she's pulling that up, I'll go ahead and kind of keep that conversation going. So because this policy does not only address field trips, it also defines and addresses activity trips. I went ahead and put that in the title, so there's no confusion on that. And what I did, as we talked about, was just kind of organize it a little bit better, so that it had the feedback you all had on Thursday. So I'll start. There are two. There's the initial policy, and then there's the regulation. So I will read both and then circle back. So I-6500, field trips and activity trips. Central Consolidated School classes, extracurricular, co-curricular, and student organizations may participate in field trips or activity trips with only after obtaining approval as provided in Regulation I-6511-IJOA-R. Let me just correct that. Field trips and activity trips shall be limited to activities that benefit youth in educational, cultural, civic, social, and ethical development, and are school-sponsored activities, athletics, and clubs of Central Consolidated School District. And so you'll note this phrase was in the fundraising policy. I just felt like we needed to make sure that we were being consistent in that description, and so it's repeated here also. Central Consolidated School District shall require written consent from the parent/legal guardian of the student prior to the field trip or activity trip in order to participate. And then I created a new heading just to make sure that this was very clear. Senior trips not sponsored by the district. Central Consolidated School District shall not sponsor senior trips. Senior trips fail to meet the criteria for field or activity trips and therefore shall neither be supported nor sponsored by the district. I don't think we actually need to read through that. There were no changes to that verbiage. It essentially just says what it said before, that those are not sponsored by the district. And that's a very appropriate thing to say, especially from a liability standpoint. Moving now to the regulation, I-6511 IJOA-R. You'll note that I did include activity trips in that definition as well. In that title as well. Moving on to the actual policy itself, field trip means a school-sponsored first-hand education experience to supplement class activities for students away from the school campus. Activity trip means a school-sponsored activity. Previously, it was called an experience. We just needed to be a little more technical there. Away from the school campus that is used to reward, I added, and enhance academic, athletic, or behavioral accomplishments. Building level approval, that previously said local trip, and there was confusion about that. So that now reads field and activity trips that do not require students to be away overnight and are held within the district may be approved by the building administrator after complying with all procedures documenting the subject field or activity trip as required by the superintendent. Next one, superintendent level approval. Field trips requiring up to 2 nights away from home must be approved by the superintendent or the superintendent's designee. Superintendent and board level approval. Field trips requiring more than 2 nights away from home or of a unique nature and destination or activity will be referred to the board for approval. Requests for final approval must be addressed to the superintendent, be submitted before the second Tuesday of the month for approval at the next month's school board meeting and include none of those things changed. This didn't change either, but I just reorganized it so that it was flowed a little bit better. And this has to do with all field trips approval. All field trips require approval of intent by the superintendent. Approval of intent must be received before announcement to parents and students prior to fundraising activities commencing. And so that didn't change either. Under conditions, the only thing that was changed there was to add activity trips. Same with the next paragraph. And then just to deal with some of the things we have seen in the past in terms of field trips and folks understanding the parameters of those, I did add this new language under funding, and I'll read it for you. Staff participants of field or activity trips that utilize state or federal grants to help fund the trip must abide by all state and or federal grant requirements for the utilization of such grant. That directly ties back to some of the JOM confusion we had last year, and so that provision would help folks understand the need to comply with those requirements. And then similar to the fundraising, accountability measures included, regardless of the source of funding paying for field or activity trips, all staff participating in the trip must abide by the following. 1, comply with district accounting procedures and policies in conducting field and activity trips. And 2, staff that participate in field and activity trips who fail to abide by the requirements in this policy may be subject to discipline up to and including termination. And with that, I stand for questions.
Board members, are there any questions or comments regarding this part?
Comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I think this evening was a fine example of why some of these clarifications were made. And I'm certainly not picking on the individual who stated it, but when we were being told about the trip to Phoenix, it was stated that it was a local trip. See, so, and that was precisely what we've talked about people's perceptions of what is local. And I think this certainly spells it out very clearly, and who and what needs to be done. So I'm quite glad that we're doing that to clear up that language specifically for the intent and purpose of each, whether it be the field trip or the activity, and the need for it. And the other thing that I like, the fact is that you recognized up at the very beginning of the use of the word social. And again, I know I made comment about the fair that's coming up in October. And again, that's where teachers walk their kids over. It's a social event. There's a day set aside for kids. So I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
No.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Ms. Chappelle, you may continue. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have on the agenda a designation for donations that are not student fundraising activities. That one we actually haven't had a first reading on, so my recommendation for that is that we put that to the next work session. And I'm going to send the resolution over to Sharon real quick so she can put it up.
But I think on these policies, I just want to emphasize that my support really is about trying to make these policies a lot more school-friendly, student-friendly, organization-friendly. So that way things get done quicker and it doesn't have to go through a lot of red tape just to get approved. So it looks like we're taking a step in the right direction to try to trust our staff and people at the school level to handle things.
Any comments, Secretary Wells?
No, I agree that as much as we can streamline it, cut out so many steps, make it easier to function, as long as we keep, things headed in the right direction.
Thank you.
So as Sharon is getting that put up, I'll start reading if that's okay.
Yes.
So this is a resolution of the Board of Education of Central Consolidated School District, and it's regarding efforts to improve state and federal funding methodologies. Whereas students of Central Consolidated School District, the district experience ongoing and historic inadequate facilities and access to resources such as up-to-date technology resources and educational programming. Whereas the district strives to rectify disadvantages and to give our students the opportunities that the students of other districts enjoy, we find ourselves facing an uphill battle because we end up using all of our scant resources, including our minimal and dwindling tax revenues, and a long overdue impact aid just to level the playing field. Whereas with the exhaustion of all of the available funding opportunities available to our district, possible construction of adequate school facilities for our students does not seem to be a reality. Whereas the majority of our district is located within the Navajo Nation, our district has less than 2% taxable property. 80% of the district's property tax revenues have been generated by the San Juan Generating Station and Four Corners Power Plant and related mines. San Juan Generating Station has already closed, and Four Corners is slated to close in a few years. In the short amount of time since closure of San Juan Generating Station, our district has seen over a 700% increase in student homelessness rates. Whereas, given these circumstances, it is clear that we don't have an adequate tax base to help fund facilities, and we end up being forced to spend state funding meant to fund direct educational expenses of our students on the maintenance of deteriorating facilities. Exacerbating this expense is the fact that our district's facilities serve students who are spread out over 3,000 square miles. The result of having facilities that are spread out over such a wide area is that maintenance and building costs are higher, because maintenance workers and building contractors have to travel greater distances to provide services. Whereas making this matter worse is the fact that in order to maintain or build facilities, we need to go out for bonds. With the closure of San Juan Generating Station, our bonding capacity has been considerably limited, which will only get worse with the looming closure of Four Corners. Whereas CCSD fought hard during the passage of the Energy Transition Act for a reasonable glide path so that our schools and communities would not be hit so hard with the closure of area plants and mines. At that time, CCSD had outstanding bonds that were issued in reliance on P&M statements that San Juan Generating Station would be operating through 2054. It is not hard to conclude that closure of San Juan Generating Station more than 30 years early would have a detrimental impact on CCSD. During testimony at the legislature, P&M promised it would locate up to 450 megawatts of replacement resources within the taxable area of CCSD to help mitigate economic impacts associated with closure of San Juan Generating Station. As a result, such promise was included within the ETA. The location of replacement resources in CCSD's taxable area is extremely important. Whereas, furthermore, the district has needs that most districts do not have because of our remote location and lack of a viable municipal infrastructure. This includes teacher housing and other facilities that are lacking in the community, such as swimming pools and public libraries. We are forced to use operational funding to pay for these extra, quote-unquote, extra amenities, while also constantly repairing crumbling infrastructure of buildings that are deteriorating to the point that we have engineering reports that deem structures as structurally unsound. Whereas the ruling in the Yazzie Martinez case directed all of us to remedy educational inadequacies that put at risk students identified in the decision as Native American, Hispanic, disabled, and low-income students at an educational disadvantage. CCSD student population is about 95% Native American. On average, over 30% of our students do not have electricity, running water, indoor plumbing, or access to the internet. In the more remote settings of our district, we believe that 70% of our students do not have access to these basic necessities. In a district as rural and remote and spread out as ours, it costs more to educate our students. Whereas the district is committed to meeting the Yazzie Martinez challenge by providing better services and opportunities for our students, but we are not given adequate resources or facilities to do so. Whereas the district is currently undergoing a process in which we are having to tighten our budget and spending so that we do our part to prioritize our resources to make sure they are being spent on the needs of our students. However, with the consideration of making budget adjustments, unless we are given the financial opportunity to correct the disadvantages our students face in regards to inadequate infrastructure and educational funding, we will continue to see learning deficits grow among our students. Be it resolved that the board requests the superintendent, board council, and staff designated by the superintendent to support and advocate for the following. 1, changes to the state equalization guarantee formula that takes into account the unique funding needs and unique expenses of CCSD and other school districts that are similarly situated to CCSD, including but not limited to A, historic underfunding of facilities, B, historic educational and social gaps caused by reduced operational funding, C, increased expenses associated with rural and remote areas, D, lack of area economic development and resulting challenges to tax revenue generation and fundraising capability, and E, Yazzie Martinez related findings related to at-risk students. 2, changes to impact aid and JOM funding that takes into account the unique funding needs and unique expenses of CCSD and other school districts that are similarly situated to CCSD. And with that, I stand for questions.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Comment.
Go ahead.
There's an event occurring Thursday. I believe it's Thursday. And that's the demolition of the smokestacks at P&M, if I'm not mistaken. And to me, that's just, obviously it denotes the end of the power plant, but certainly the beginning of further challenges for our students because of the lack of tax revenue that our district and our students would have benefited from. So, and I was asked about it, and I said I don't need to go and see it because I get to see it every day through our kids. And so it's unfortunate that a state legislature and certain groups and the governor, dare I say, find joy in destroying an entity that truly benefited our students. And the fact that it was allowed to happen is what sickens me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Would it be possible to add in anything dealing with how the public school capital outlay funding, the PSCOC, is allocated, where we can get more at? Because I know the SCG is one pot of money, but when it comes to school, I know we have some schools that are coming up, like Seveda, Newcomb. Those schools need money that's in a different pot or funding stream. So maybe we need changes to the PSCOC or PSFA about how they can allocate more money through that process to schools located in our area that have different challenges and needs.
I agree. And also in terms of Yazzie Martinez for the additional classrooms to support that.
Because I think what we're trying to ask for is buildings that are beyond, what are they called? Above adequacy. Because what the state is probably just trying to give us is what is like bare bones. They don't want to add the stuff that makes school a school.
I would concur to his comment because under the consideration of where we are today, it's going to be very, very hard for us to go above adequacy because of the funding streams that we've just lost. Good point.
So I have changed that. Oh, do you want me to just say how I changed it?
Sorry. Let me ask Vice President Aspis, are you still online? Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, go ahead.
So I changed it to read changes to the state equalization guarantee formula, PSCOC. I will write that out. I won't just call it PSCOC, and other state funding sources that takes into account, and then the same language.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? Oh, okay.
Pretty impressive scribe.
All right, number 5, what happened with the consent agenda.
I would like to make a motion to approve all the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay.
You asked.
I hadn't even read. Okay. All right. Just for sake of documentation, I'm going to read it and then I'll acknowledge your motions. Number 5, review consent items, see below, and items pulled from the consent agenda for discussion and or approval. A, possible items removed from consent agenda. None. Motion by board member So to approve the consent agenda to, right?
Correct.
And second by board member Montoya to vote. Vice President Aspis. Secretary Wells.
Yes.
Board member So.
I vote yes, and I just, again, want to express my strong support for all the student groups that are listed for their different requests and activities.
Board member Montoya.
Yes.
And I vote yes. I will jump down to, yes. We have to put that on there?
One. There was one, right, that you didn't read, you said? There was one that you didn't read.
You pulled,
Yeah.
you pulled donations. Oh, okay. Do you want to do an amendment to your, no?
Or
Can't?
take second.
Okay.
If it's already listed on the agenda, just motion to approve it.
All right.
Which item was that again? The
That was letter
I.
I.
Madam
No,
President,
no, no.
I will make a motion to
It
approve.
was J. It was it I or, no, I, you're right.
Yeah, I will make the motion to approve the school board policy on field trips, fundraising activities, and public, okay. That is it.
Do I have a second?
Second. Mr. Wells.
Who else? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Board member Montoya?
Yes.
Board member So?
Yes.
Secretary Wells?
Yes.
Vice President Aspis? And I vote yes.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. So.
All right, down to number 7, executive session. A, convene executive session discussion on the collective bargaining agreement as permitted under NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1, H5 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, and discussion pertaining to threatening or pending litigation regarding Title IX litigation and policies as permitted under NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1, H7 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And I will second the motion.
Okay. Board member Montoya, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board member So?
Yes.
Secretary Wells?
Yes.
Vice President Aspis? I vote yes to convene in executive session. reconvene in open session stated that the board has discussed in executive session only the subject identified in the agenda as the reason for which the meeting was closed. Discussion on the collective bargaining agreement as permitted under NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H5 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, and discussion pertaining to the threatening or pending litigation regarding Title IX litigation and policies as permitted under NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H7 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. Hold on. I will entertain a motion. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I will make the motion to reconvene in open session.
Do I have a second? Board Member Montoya.
Yes.
Board Member So.
Yes.
Secretary Wells.
Yes.
Vice President Aspis. Yes. And I vote yes to reconvene.
Who seconded the motion?
Me.
Secretary Wells.
Thank you.
C, possible action items on matters discussed in executive session. I will entertain a motion to approve the CBA as revised in executive session.
Motion.
Second.
We will vote. Board Member Montoya.
Yes.
Board Member So.
Yes.
Secretary Wells.
Can you read again what we're?
I will entertain a motion to approve the CBA as revised in executive session.
Yes.
Okay, and Vice President Aspis. And I didn't hear the presentation or the. Okay, and I vote yes. All right, 8, request action items and or reports for the next meeting. A, possible items for the next meeting. I would like to schedule a special board meeting on September 3rd, Tuesday, September 3rd, to have an overview of changes to Title IX regulations and public comment. Anything else?
I have nothing.
Nope, nothing.
Nothing.
Got it.
Vice President Aspis, do you have anything to add for the next meeting?
Got it.
Like, cut it off.
If we can get out to the chapter houses and talk about stray dogs. Make sure that they're chained in the neighborhoods, and then also to make sure our transportation is not letting them have to walk the students because of these situations.
Okay. Are there anything else? No? Okay, I had one, but the thought escaped me. I was thinking about the dog.
He's tied up.
No, what was it? Okay, when I remember, I will email you, so I think that was it right now. Number 9, plus deltas, A plus deltas from the board, starting with, Board Member Montoya.
Just moved right along, thank you.
I thought we had a very efficient meeting. We took care of a lot of business, especially some of the items involving students and organizations.
We kept it short.
Okay. Vice President Aspis, do you have any plus or deltas?
plus delta, do you have a plus or a delta?
Okay. No, just the Delta. I should be there, and I wasn't. And no, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. We covered a lot of stuff. It was good feedback. I forgot to add with the September 3rd meeting to make sure it's only gonna be from 5:30 to 7:30.
Where will it be held?
And if,
We're gonna hold it here, we're gonna hold it here, bro.
it'd be easier for me in Shiprock. But
Not for me.
I know. You're like, I could crawl to your house from here.
Go for it.
So, here or there? 2 hours? Okay, so,
Are we expecting a lot of public comment?
so what do you recommend?
If we need to do 3, that's fine, but you can always post that online too, on the district website, so they can review it
Post.
and highlight those sections that aren't in question.
Can we do that? Put it on the district website. Okay, and then to have maybe a comment sheet that they can submit ahead of time. That's it. So we move on to number 10, adjournment. Adjourn regular board
Motion to
meeting.
adjourn.
Second.
Board Member Montoya?
Yes.
Board Member So?
Yes.
Secretary Wells?
Yes.
Vice President Aspis? She's still, okay, yes. And I vote yes.
Yes.
8:45, we adjourn.